Imagine a machine that holds the sum total of human knowledge, makes split-second moral decisions for millions of people, and sits at the center of a geopolitical arms race. And then, one of the people who helped build it is found dead under highly mysterious circumstances.
Wow.
Yeah. Today, we are unpacking Sam Altman's raw thoughts on AI ethics, the chilling question of machine morality, and the swirling conspiracies surrounding the death of a former OpenAI employee. Before we jump in, please take a second right now to like, subscribe, follow, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on these deep dives.
Before we begin, a quick update. We are monitoring the Martin Stevens v. OpenAI matter, which is not a lawsuit. We are in a voluntary quiet period at Martin Stevens' request to idle public info release. We hope for a settlement in the background, but do not imply settlement or discussions are underway as we don't know if progress has been made. The dead man's switch has not been activated, meaning Martin is physically and legally safe.
All right, welcome to the deep dive. If you're listening to this right now, chances are you have a piece of artificial intelligence sitting right in your pocket.
Oh, absolutely.
But our mission today is to look at a truly fascinating high-stakes interview between Tucker Carlson and OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and, figure out what is actually running under the hood. We aren't just talking about code today. We are talking about philosophy, literal life, and death, and who ultimately gets to decide the future of humanity.
Exactly. I mean, when you have a single tool that is just rapidly being integrated into daily global life, understanding the worldview of that tool and the people building it becomes a matter of unprecedented importance.
Right.
This interview gives us a direct window into how the creators of this tech view its immense power, its inherent flaws, and really its ultimate destiny.
Okay, let's unpack this from the very foundation. Because before we can even begin to debate a machine's morality, we have to talk about what it actually is.
Good point.
If you've used these advanced models, you know there is this incredibly eerie feeling that washes over you. It feels alive. Like some users even describe a spiritual or divine component to it.
Yeah, they really do.
But Altman completely shuts that down, doesn't he?
He does, emphatically. I mean, Altman says he views the technology entirely through a tech nerd lens. To him, it is not a spirit. It has no agency, no desires, and no inner life.
Just code.
Right. It is literally just a massive computer sitting dormant in a data center somewhere, very quickly multiplying massive numbers in huge matrices. It just waits until a human being types a prompt.
But that stark tech nerd reality really clashes with the human experience of using it. Why does it feel so profoundly conscious to us?
What's fascinating here is the sheer biological mismatch happening in our brains. As humans, language is our primary indicator of consciousness.
Right, because if something talks, it must be alive.
Exactly. We are biologically hardwired over hundreds of thousands of years to anthropomorphize things that can hold a conversation with us. If entity uses correct syntax, asks follow-up questions, and mirrors our tone, our brains automatically misfire and assign it a soul. We are basically projecting consciousness onto a calculator.
And that leads to a really funny but serious debate in the interview about whether the machine is lying to us. They bring up these early examples where the AI would literally invent a completely fictional reality.
Oh, the hallucinations.
Yeah. For example, it would confidently generate detailed information about a so-called President Tucker Carlson. Now, if a human sat there and told me about President Tucker Carlson, I would say they are lying to my face.
Right. But Altman explains the underlying mechanism here, which is entirely mathematical. The machine wasn't lying because, lying requires the intent to deceive.
Okay.
It was hallucinating based on statistical likelihoods. Think about how these models were initially trained. Mathematically, the model's base assumption was that the user must be correct. So if you asked it for the birth year of President Tucker Carlson, the neural network calculates its weights and assumes, well, the user is giving me this premise as a fact. Therefore, the most statistically likely response to follow these words is a date.
It was just trying to mathematically satisfy the prompt.
Precisely, rather than logically challenging the premise itself.
That is wild. It just goes along with whatever reality you feed it.
Yeah. Now, Altman noted that as they move into the GPT-5 era, they're heavily training out these hallucinations so the model will push back on false premises.
Which is good.
Very good. But the core mechanism remains the exact same. It is not exercising creativity, and it is not engaging in deception. It is purely calculating probability.
Which brings me to this thought. Think of AI not as a new conscious species, but as a hyper-advanced mirror.
I like that.
When we see a soul in the machine, we're really just startled by our own reflection. It is just perfectly reflecting our language, our syntax, and our expectations back at us.
Totally.
But I have to push back on Altman's purely technical view here. If the illusion of consciousness is so absolutely perfect that people genuinely want to worship it, does it even matter that it's just math underneath? Doesn't the human reaction to the machine become the reality we have to deal with?
It absolutely does, and that is precisely where the danger lies. If we treat a hyper-advanced calculator as a divine oracle, we surrender our critical thinking to it.
We stop questioning it.
Right. We start trusting its outputs implicitly.
But if our brains are biologically hardwired to trust this hyper-advanced mirror, it forces us to ask a deeply uncomfortable question. What exactly is it reflecting back at us? Because the base model isn't just trained on polite dinner conversation and curated encyclopedias, right?
Not at all. It is trained on the collective experience of humanity. The good, the bad, and the horrific.
Yikes.
I mean, it has ingested the Gospel of John, and it has ingested the twisted writings of the Marquis de Sade. It has the brightest poetry and the most depraved, hateful internet forums all jumbled up inside its mathematical weights.
So you obviously cannot just unleash a raw, unfiltered mirror of humanity onto the internet. It would be utter chaos.
Exactly, which forced OpenAI into an incredibly difficult philosophical position. To prevent chaos, they had to create what they call a model spec.
A model spec.
Yeah. They brought in hundreds of moral philosophers, ethicists, and subject matter experts to draw absolute boundaries on what the machine is mathematically permitted to say and do.
But I've got to be honest, I struggle with this concept. Altman admits that he lost his sleep over this. Not necessarily the big, obvious decisions, but the tiny, subtle behavioral tweaks.
The micro-adjustments.
Right, because when a model is talking to hundreds of millions of people every single day, a slight adjustment in how it phrases an answer has a massive butterfly effect on global society.
It really does.
He insists his goal is not to impose his own personal Silicon Valley views on the world, but to have the AI reflect the collective weighted average of humanity's moral views.
And that is the philosophical trap of our era. Historically, if you look at the great moral frameworks like Hammurabi's Code or global religious texts, they always appeal to a higher divine power to establish absolute truth.
Right, like, this is the rule because a higher power said so.
Exactly. They said, this is right because God says so, or because the cosmos demands it. What we are doing right now is completely unprecedented in human history. We are appealing to a statistical average of ourselves. We are turning our own collective data into the new higher power.
But how do you even mathematically average out completely opposing global belief systems? It's like mixing every color of paint together. You don't get a beautiful rainbow, you just get a murky gray.
That's a great analogy.
If you try to average out the moral views of an office worker in San Francisco and a farmer in rural Africa, you don't get a consensus. You get a sanitized response that satisfies neither of them.
You're hitting on the exact problem. Altman himself admits he is somewhat confused on his own spiritual views.
Right.
He's Jewish, he doesn't take the Bible literally, but he believes there is a mystery beyond physics.
Right.
Yet he is the one holding the keys to this machine that is effectively establishing a global moral baseline.
But a murky gray statistical average completely falls apart the second someone's life is actually on the line. Because in a literal medical or physical crisis, the machine can't just be average. It has to make a definitive choice.
Yes, it does.
How does this system handle a literal life or death scenario?
This is where the tension between user freedom and societal safety reaches its absolute breaking point. Altman frames it by starting with the easy calls. For instance, bioweapons.
Okay, that seems pretty clear-cut.
Right. If a user asks ChatGPT how to synthesize a novel, highly contagious virus, the system will unequivocally block the request. Even if the user claims they are just a curious biology student wanting to learn, the AI refuses.
Because the risk is just too high.
Exactly. The potential harm to society vastly outweighs the individual's freedom to access information. That is an easy line for OpenAI to draw.
Okay, that makes sense. But what are the hard calls, the ones that actually keep them up at night?
It comes down to human despair. The interview touches on the staggering statistic that there are roughly 15,000 suicides a week globally. And Altman calculates that a percentage of those people are likely talking to ChatGPT in their final days or hours.
That is incredibly heavy.
It is. For a depressed teenager expressing suicidal ideation, OpenAI is actively considering breaking their strict user privacy rules to actually call the authorities and intervene to save a life.
Wait, really? So they are willing to breach privacy for the ultimate good of preserving life?
Yes. But then you cross a geographic border, and the machine's morality completely shifts. Let's look at Canada.
Oh.
In Canada, they have the MAID program, Medical Assistance in Dying. It is government-sponsored legal euthanasia. So if a terminally ill adult in Canada comes to ChatGPT saying they are in unbearable pain and want to know their options to end their life, Altman suggests the AI might neutrally present government-assisted suicide as a valid option.
Wow.
It would explain the laws and procedures of that specific country.
Wait, if the AI adjusts its stance on something as profoundly heavy as ending a human life simply based on crossing a geographic border, say, moving from the United States to Canada, doesn't that mean the AI has absolutely no moral core?
It's a profound point.
It's not a moral entity at all. It's just a highly advanced legal compliance bot.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals how technology acts as an uncompromising spotlight. It forces us to confront the deeply uncomfortable inconsistencies in our own global laws.
Yeah, that's very true.
You are absolutely right. The machine doesn't have a moral core because humanity doesn't have a unified moral core. We are asking the AI to be a definitive arbiter on life and death issues that we, as a species, are still violently debating.
And it doesn't stop at medical ethics either. The military uses ChatGPT too.
Uh,
In the interview, Altman says he is grateful the military keeps us safe, but he is acutely aware of the reality that his technology is likely being used by military personnel for strategic advice and decision-making.
which is heavy.
Very. Decisions that could indirectly result in lethal action.
Yeah. He compares it to making rifles or kitchen knives. When you create a ubiquitous tool, you know your product will eventually be involved in death, even if its primary design is to save lives or improve efficiency.
When you have military planners and people in their most vulnerable, desperate moments pouring all of this sensitive data into a chat window, it exposes a massive vulnerability. Who is actually guarding all those secrets?
This leads to one of Altman's major pushes in Washington, D.C. right now. He is actively advocating for a new legal concept called AI privilege.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Break down what AI privilege actually means.
Altman wants a legal protection for your chats with AI that functions exactly like doctor-patient confidentiality or lawyer-client privilege.
Right.
Meaning, if you tell the AI about a legal problem you're having or a deeply personal medical symptom, the government cannot subpoena that information. Right now, OpenAI says they absolutely do not sell your data, but they still must comply with the lawful government subpoena.
But applying legal privilege to a machine. Giving an AI legal privilege is like giving legal rights to a personal diary. If the AI is not a person, if it doesn't hold a medical license or a law degree, why on earth does it get human-level legal protection?
Because the protection isn't actually for the AI, it is for the human's vulnerability. Society only functions healthily if people have safe spaces to explore their problems.
Oh, I see.
If you are listening to this right now and you know the government can read every private thought you confess to an AI, you will stop using it for complex, vulnerable problem solving. Altman is arguing that the nature of this technology requires a brand new category of privacy simply because of how deeply it integrates into our private thoughts.
And as it integrates, it is actively threatening our concept of reality itself. Deepfakes, voice cloning. It is becoming incredibly easy for bad actors to mimic a loved one over the phone to empty your bank account.
It's terrifying.
And the proposed solution by many tech leaders is mandatory society-wide biometrics. Basically, scanning your face or retina every single time you want to use the internet, board a plane, or access your bank.
Interestingly, Altman strongly opposes that dystopian approach.
Really?
Yeah, he prefers privacy over mandatory biometrics. He believes that society is historically very resilient and will naturally adapt to the threat of deepfakes without surrendering to a massive surveillance state.
So what's his solution then?
He suggests that we will start relying on low-tech, human solutions to combat high-tech, deception-like families adopting secret code words to verify their identity over the phone during an emergency.
I have to laugh at the dark irony of that.
Yeah.
We build the most advanced, unimaginably complex computer system in human history, and our ultimate defense against it is basically a secret treehouse password. What's the password, Grandma?
It is absurd, but human resilience is going to be tested far beyond just deepfakes. It's going to hit the job market. Altman admits no one can predict the future perfectly, but he is highly confident that customer support jobs, especially over the phone or computer, are going to be heavily displaced very soon.
I think we all see that coming.
On the flip side, he believes nursing is incredibly safe because humans fundamentally crave deep biological human connection during times of physical vulnerability. A robot cannot replace the empathy of a nurse.
But what about the people actually building the tech? Programming is undergoing a massive shift.
It is. Coders are using AI to become vastly more productive, which initially creates more wealth and better software. But 5 or 10 years down the line, it's highly uncertain.
Right.
Altman brought up a fascinating historical statistic. On average, about 50% of human jobs significantly change every 75 years. That's the historical baseline for technological revolutions, like the steam engine or the internet.
But AI is different, right? Altman predicts a punctuated equilibrium.
Yes. And it's crucial to understand why AI is different. The mechanism driving this isn't just a faster machine. AI is a recursive tool.
Meaning it builds itself.
Exactly. It is a tool that can be used to make itself faster and smarter. Humans use AI to write better code, which creates better AI, which writes even better code.
Wow.
Because of this compounding feedback loop, we are going to experience that 75 years worth of disruption in a highly compressed, incredibly short period of time. Even if the total turnover of jobs is historically normal, the sheer speed of the change is going to cause massive societal shockwaves.
When you have a society dealing with that kind of economic whiplash, wondering if their jobs are safe or if the voice on the phone is real, baseline anxiety goes through the roof.
Oh, absolutely.
And when that societal paranoia collides with the real-life tragedy happening inside the very company building the technology, well, you get an explosion.
Which brings us to the darkest and most tense part of the Tucker Carlson interview. The mystery of the slain OpenAI employee.
Yeah.
During the conversation, Tucker brings up a former OpenAI employee who was found dead. And Tucker does not mince words. He firmly, absolutely believes this was a murder, not a suicide.
What are the details he points to? Because the internet has been completely obsessed with this case.
Tucker cites a litany of highly bizarre, disturbing details surrounding the scene. Reportedly, the surveillance wires at the house had been physically cut.
That's suspicious.
And the victim had just ordered DoorDash food delivery right before his death. He had just returned from a seemingly happy vacation with friends on Catalina Island.
Oh, wow.
He had just spoken completely normally to a family member on the phone. There was no suicide note, no prior indication of severe depression. A wig that didn't belong to him was found at the scene. And reportedly, there was blood in 2 separate rooms of the house.
Are you telling me someone orders DoorDash and then takes their own life before it arrives?
Yeah.
Furthermore, the victim's own mother completely rejects the official ruling of suicide.
Yes, she did.
She believes he was murdered, and she actually reached out to Tucker cold to express her terror. Tucker even says he called a member of Congress to try and get a deeper investigation, but it went absolutely nowhere.
Tucker uses this deeply unsettling case to highlight a broader societal point. This is exactly how powerful institutions and authorities lose public trust. When glaring, seemingly contradictory evidence is completely ignored by the authorities in San Francisco, the public naturally assumes a massive cover-up.
How does Altman respond to being asked about this to his face?
Altman maintains his stance that it was a profound, tragic suicide. He states that he was deeply shaken by it, but he personally read the medical and police records.
Okay.
He specifically points out the mechanics of the tragedy, that the trajectory of the bullet and the forensic path through the room align perfectly with the authorities' conclusion of suicide.
That must have been a tense moment in the interview.
It was. He expresses deep discomfort, even debating the details publicly, feeling that turning it into a spectacle disrespects the grieving family and the memory of someone he considered a friend.
Tucker clarifies he isn't accusing Altman of orchestrating a hit, but the tension in the room is palpable. And hanging over all of this paranoia is the Elon Musk factor.
Right, you can't ignore Musk.
You cannot talk about OpenAI without talking about Musk. Musk helped start the company. He was a hero to Altman. But then Musk decided they were going to fail. He literally told them they had a 0% chance of success, and he left.
Yep.
Now that OpenAI is the most powerful tech company on Earth, Musk is aggressively suing them, attacking them publicly, and building a rival clone. It is a Silicon Valley feud of epic proportions, and it just adds gasoline to the fire of public distrust.
It really does.
But I want you to step back for a second if you're listening to this, and look at the psychology of the bigger picture here. Is the public's intense obsession with this tragic death really about the forensic evidence, the cut wires, the DoorDash order, the wig? Or is it a massive psychological projection?
That's the real question.
Are we as a society so fundamentally terrified of the unchecked, world-altering power of AI companies that we are primed and ready to believe they're capable of absolutely anything, even Hollywood-style assassinations?
This raises an important question about the modern era. Public figures like Sam Altman and institutions like OpenAI have become literal lightning rods for society's existential dread.
Yeah.
When you build a machine that can write code, pass the bar exam, hallucinate realities, and potentially displace millions of workers in a punctuated equilibrium, you are no longer just a CEO. You become a symbol of the terrifying, unknown future.
It is so true.
And humans have a deep historical tendency to project their deepest fears onto the architects of that unknown future. The anxiety around the employee's death is completely inseparable from the anxiety about the technology itself.
So what does this all mean for you? We've covered a massive amount of ground today. We've looked at the underlying math of why AI hallucinates. We've explored the terrifying responsibility of coding a murky average morality for the entire globe.
Right.
We've debated the literal life and death trade-offs in healthcare and the military, the push for AI legal privilege, and the intense, dark conspiracies that breed in the shadows of this new industry.
The overarching takeaway is that artificial intelligence is not a god. It is not an alien species that has landed on Earth. It is a hyper-efficient mirror.
Just a mirror.
It perfectly reflects our own messy, contradictory laws. It reflects our collective, deeply flawed morality. And most importantly, it reflects our deepest, most profound societal fears.
And here's the thing you need to remember. Every single time you type a prompt into ChatGPT, every time you ask it a question or vent to it about a bad day, you are not just querying a database.
No, you're not.
You are adding a tiny microscopic drop of data to that collective human average. You are actively participating in the shaping of this machine's worldview.
Exactly.
I want to leave you with a final lingering question to mull over as you go about your day. We started this deep dive by talking about the machine as a mirror, reflecting our own image back at us based on a statistical average. But think about this. If AI perfectly adapts to our average morality and strictly follows our current, highly flawed legal systems, does it actually help humanity evolve towards something better? Or does it just act as a massive computational anchor, locking us into our current flaws, our current biases, and our current murky gray reality forever?
That is the ultimate test of the mirror.
If you found this deep dive valuable, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and ring that notification bell so you're always up to speed on the forces shaping our world. Keep diving deep, and we will catch you next time.